Right, so now that the dust has well and truly settled, I want to have a little look back on the Mario Barrios against Manny Pacquiao fight. And by doing so, try to work out what next for Manny Pacquiao. And before you lot tell me that Manny's too old and Barrios was just rubbish and someone could get seriously hurt here, I know that. I know that. But if a fighter is not ready to hang up the gloves, who am I to hang up those gloves for him? And especially if it's Manny Pacquiao. So if the Pacman wants to box on, then he's going to box on, isn't he? Let's have a little look at that fight and let's see whether it was a case of Manny Pacquiao defying the odds and being really, really good for his age, or Mario Barrios just being the weakest champion that we've ever seen. Here he is. Manny Pacquiao walking out. Straight away. Pacquiao on them counters. Nice. And Barrios, a big, big welterweight. Big welterweight. Pacquiao getting caught a little bit, but I think on activity doing the better work here. The thing is, I've watched the fight in its entirety, and it was a really boring fight, to be honest. But Pacquiao again, when Barrios throws, Pacquiao's ready to counter, comes inside with some great shots there to the body, then up to the head. And if you're looking at significant shots here, I'm not saying Barrios isn't landing any, and I'm not saying Pacquiao's work's the cleanest, but he's better than what Barrios is doing. And for Barrios to be boxing like this at 30 years old against a man 16 years his senior, no matter how good that man is or was, Barrios is a weak champion, man. He really is. See Fat Joe there in the crowd. You can draw a crowd, old Manny. Yeah, into the ninth now. And do you know what? Watching the thing in full, which I have, I probably had Pacquiao maybe like 2-3 rounds up going in to the final couple of rounds. Still doing better work there. Outworking Barrios. Barrios really put the pressure on in these last 2 rounds. And I think I scored one of them to him. Good little shot there from Barrios, or combination I should say, on the inside. But still struggling to deal with Manny. And when Manny lets his hands go, you're seeing 3s, 4s, whereas Barrios now starting to put the punches together, but in the earlier stages of the fight, just single shots for the most part. And here's where you see the defensive vulnerability. Now, Manny Pacquiao was always able to be caught and countered, but at 46 years old, he's more able than ever. At the same time, saying that, he's still able to land on these guys. And I think that your heart really breaks when you're no longer able to land. It's not the getting hit that will deter you. But if you get in there with a man and you don't feel like you can land on him, that's when you start to think, okay, maybe it is time to call it a day. These are only the highlights, and obviously I would show you the full fight, but you'd probably be bored to death. That's made it look like it was quite an exciting fight. In all realism, it wasn't an exciting fight at all. It was a boring fight, but Manny Pacquiao did the better work. And look, I personally do struggle to ever think in my lifetime of watching boxing of a weaker welterweight world champion. I think I struggle to think of a weaker welterweight division. In all honesty, it's not great, especially when you compare it to the division that Manny Pacquiao last campaigned at when he was really a welterweight, when he won that world title at 40 years old, breaking the world record against Keith Thurman. You know, you had the likes of Keith Thurman, but you had Sean Porter, you had Errol Spence, you had Kell Brook, you had Danny Garcia, and many, many more that aren't on the top of my head right now. And as I say, when Manny Pacquiao handed Keith Thurman his first loss at the age of 40 years old, he became the oldest ever welterweight champion. And I don't actually think that that's a record that's going to be broke anytime too soon, anytime in my lifetime. I think that the general attitude of fighters nowadays and the way that boxing's shifting way towards money than, you know, legacy and things like that, I don't see that record being broken in my lifetime or Pacquiao's lifetime. Unless, of course, he breaks it himself, goes back in with Barrios, has a rematch, and gets what I feel would be the correct decision. And at 46, that record's surely never getting broken. Then again, I could think of a man about 48 years old who might beg to differ. However, that man wouldn't do it, in my opinion, by going in there and facing Mario Barrios. Something that Mauricio Sulaiman would definitely let happen, in my opinion. He would probably make Manny Pacquiao go back in there, do all the hard work against an active fighter, which many will argue he already has beaten, and then he would face Manny Pacquiao. And that man is, of course, the money man, Floyd Mayweather. And you know what? When we speak about Manny against Floyd, these two have more combined world titles than I have had hot dinners. So does it really make that much of a difference if they were to go in there and one more world title be on the line when, you know, there's potentially a couple of $100 million to be made? I don't think it does. But despite being called the money man, something tells me that Mayweather would actually like to win another world title. And I'm telling you now, this Mayweather, exhibition Mayweather, would go in there and beat Mario Barrios really, really easily, in my opinion, which sounds mad, but it just shows how great these guys were. But I just can't see him doing it. I can see him waiting for Pacquiao to either rematch him or potentially for Pacquiao to go into another big fight, and then Mayweather stay active and potentially put on some sort of exhibition between the two of them. But I don't know, I just feel like despite their respective careers both being littered with success, I don't put Floyd on a pedestal above Manny Pacquiao, and therefore Manny shouldn't have to battle to get a second fight with Floyd Mayweather. If you include exhibition fights, in the last 7 years, Manny Pacquiao's had 8 fights. If you include those exhibition fights, in the last 7 years, Floyd Mayweather's had 9 fucking fights. But unlike Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao wasn't fighting YouTubers, reality TV stars in that time. In those 7 years, Manny Pacquiao's fought Lucas Matisse, he's fought Adrian Broner, Keith Thurman, he's fought Ugas, and now he's come back and he's fought Barrios. Manny Pacquiao has been fighting at a much higher level, not only in those 7 years, but in the decade since he took on Floyd Mayweather. So morally, I think that if Floyd wanted to fight Manny, Floyd should go in there and beat Mario Barrios. And I know this sounds crazy, but it's the WBC and we're used to it now. Sulaiman will let Floyd do whatever he wants. But I just think, right, that even at the age of 48, if you made Floyd Mayweather against Mario Barrios right now, the bookmakers would open up with Floyd Mayweather as a sizable favourite. And therefore, I don't think it does as much money as Floyd has been earning for some of the exhibitions against the likes of Logan Paul and people like that. And therefore, I don't think that Floyd would do it. And Pacquiao's a smart man, so he surely knows that if you spend your time waiting around for Floyd Mayweather, you could be waiting a lifetime, like last time out. So, although I do have a feeling that we do see another fight between Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather, I don't think it's next. I also don't really want to see the rematch between Mario Barrios and Manny Pacquiao, as it was a rubbish fight. And by the way, for those of you who said that Mario Barrios took it easy on Manny Pacquiao, you are absolutely deluded. No world champion takes it easy on someone when it's not an exhibition fight and when their world title is on the line. And obviously there's so much money to be earned off the back of being a world champion. If you don't agree with me, go back on Prime, watch the video and listen to the corner instructions. Listen to the conversations that were happening in that corner. Barrios was trying to win that fight. Barrios is just not very good, ladies and gentlemen. That's why you hear Eddie Hearn calling Barrios' name for Conor Benn rather than Boots or Crawford or anyone like that. So I don't want to see that rematch, and I'll just cut to the point. I want to see a fight that truly intrigues me with Manny Pacquiao, and I'm not sure I would like to see him in with a Ryan Garcia, a Rolly Romero, a Devin Haney, or a Teofimo Lopez. In fact, I am sure I wouldn't want to see him in any of those fights. Because as good as the fighters are that I've just named, I do think they're fighters that Manny Pacquiao would have had his way with in his heyday. And this isn't his heyday. But there can be a real art in boxing of picking the perfect fight at the perfect time. And you lot are going to think I am crazy when I suggest this one. But in boxing right now, if the stars were to align, there is a fighter who is regarded as an elite fighter in the pound for pound list, many might say, that I believe that Manny Pacquiao could compete with right now. And that's Tank Davis. Listen, Tank should be able to blast Pacquiao out in a matter of rounds. I saw so many slow reactions and adjustments in that fight between Manny and Barrios that I know an on-form Tank would capitalise on. And if you go and look at Tank's highlight reel clips, you're going to say, hold on, this is ridiculously dangerous. But as good as it looks, as powerful as those punches are, and as well as Tank has done in the past against southpaw opponents, I just don't think Gervonta Davis's heart is in boxing anymore. He's 30 years old now. Many people think that he lost his last fight. Before that, he had a devastating finish against Frank Martin, but that was a close fight. So, do I think that he's on a decline? No, not necessarily on a decline, but I just think there's so much chaos going on in his personal life that I'm not going to get into in this video. His mind might be in other places, and this might be the time, which sounds mad, but it might be. It might be the time to cherry pick Tank. Obviously, because of his youth, his talent, his punch power, and his activeness, you're still going to pick Gervonta Davis in a fight against Manny Pacquiao. But now really is the time to get Tank, in my opinion, if you want him. And I think you can see that from his actions. It's not what you say, it's what you do. He is not willing to go back in there with Roach by all accounts, right? He wants the Jake Paul fight at this moment in time. And that, for me, says that you want retirement money. You want out of the game. And you don't want longevity in your career anymore. And Manny Pacquiao is the complete opposite to that. He is the epitome of someone who does not take his eye off the ball. Commitment, focus, and like I just said, longevity. That is exactly how you would describe Manny Pacquiao. And by the way, we spoke about Jake Paul there. I know he's being lined up potentially for an Anthony Joshua fight or something like that. But I'll tell you one thing, right? 46 years old or not, a win over Manny Pacquiao, who has just, in most people's opinion, done enough to win the WBC welterweight world title, is a million times more credible than going in there and boxing Jake Paul. And I'm not an expert in this field, but I don't think the money disparity would be all that different. I mean, regardless of the fight, you're tuning in to watch someone lose, really, aren't you? So, is there more of an interest in watching Jake Paul lose as there is in watching Tank lose? And what with, you know, Tank's recent allegations and stuff like that, he's hardly flavour of a month at the minute. And with all that being said, as mad as you lot might think it seems, I would give Pacquiao about a 30% chance against Tank Davis at this moment in time. And a year or two ago, I might have only given him a 5% chance. But I do believe that Tank Davis has real demons inside of him at the moment, and I don't think those are demons that boxing can fix. Even he has said that himself, that boxing potentially brings out a side of him that he doesn't like. And imagine the irony if a 46-year-old Manny Pacquiao was to go in there and hand the first career loss to the man that was once dubbed the protege of Floyd Mayweather. This honestly sounds like the Rocky Balboa movie, but I tell you what, it wouldn't be the first time that fiction has turned into reality if it did happen. So just to be clear here, I'm not claiming that Manny Pacquiao beats Gervonta Davis, but what I am saying is I think the best chance he's ever going to get from this point onwards is right now. And you know what? If he goes in there and he gets chinned, at least he's been chinned by someone who most people recognise as a pound-for-pound fighter. And he did so daring to be even greater than he has already become. And Pacquiao has said, I'm back and I'm not going anywhere. And the harsh reality of that for me is if you go down the line of fighting legit professional boxers, world champions, things like that, you're going to get beat by someone who is just nowhere near the level that you were not even in your prime, towards the end of your career when you were fighting guys like Ugas. So why not just roll the dice? And from a fan perspective, what I like about this is this ain't Ryan Garcia going in there as the B-side and getting massively dehydrated against Tank. This is Manny Pacquiao, 147 fighter, a more experienced man than yourself, a man that you should be a favourite against, and a man that you should be willing to take on if you're given the opportunity. But for once, you'll be the B-side, because you are not a bigger name in this sport than Manny Pacquiao. And I know you lot might think I'm crazy, but with one full of motivation right now and one massively lacking it, same height, same reach, I don't know, man. The more I think about it, the more I think that Pacquiao might actually have a chance against him. Oh, God. Gervonta Davis should take the fight. That's what I do know. If that fight's presented to him, Gervonta Davis should take it, because you'd be a huge favourite in it, but there'd be a huge, huge part of me hoping that Manny Pacquiao could win that fight if it happened. That's the fight that I actually think makes the most sense for Manny Pacquiao next. And if Manny Pacquiao was to pull it off and was to beat Gervonta Davis, I should say, you know that Floyd Mayweather would come out of retirement for that fight of Manny Pacquiao, because Manny Pacquiao's timing looks off right now. So if he was to beat Gervonta Davis, I don't know. Maybe it'd be coming up in weight, but they're pretty much the same size. It's the weirdest video I'm making, but something's telling me that it could happen. Something tells me it could happen. You lot let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I know most of you don't want to see Manny Pacquiao box on, but in the world that he is boxing on, which is clearly stated he's going to, if anyone, who do you want to see him fight next? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and I will see you all in the next one.